quick introduction here. We've got my partner Amin Ali with Team Prep Stars, and we got bodybuilding legend Sugar Sean Ray here, and we're just here to discuss the dangerous advice given by some of these so-called trainers and gurus that are ultimately leading to some serious health complications, including death. And a lot of this stems from, abusing diuretics pre-competition and abusing anabolic androgenic steroids with bad advice. So what do you guys have to say about this, especially with the recent events?
Let's let Sean talk first.
Well, you said a mouthful right there, because you're talking about untimely deaths, the utilization of coaches that have their fingerprints on these untimely deaths. You shouldn't die with your coach in the room with you, because apparently these athletes are turning over everything they know to the coach. So I'm going to presume that these athletes don't know what the hell they're doing in the first place. And their untimely deaths with their coaches in the room means they have their fingerprints on these untimely deaths. You take the coach out of the room, maybe the athlete's not dead. You take the athlete away from the coach, and maybe the athlete is still alive. So I'm pretty passionate about this. And I think we're living in a day and age where if you look at the George Floyd case and you feel a certain way about that cop, you have good cops that start getting pissed off because everyone's calling for that guy's head. They want that guy dealt with, swift justice. You just murdered someone for 9 minutes, 29 seconds, and you need to be dealt with now, right? And so you have the good cops going, hey, hold on a second. I didn't do it. I agree with you. Well, I got a slew of coaches coming out of the woodworks trying to defend their good work and their good name. I don't have to name them. There's a lot of good coaches out there. I'll qualify that. But where I'm getting a little bit tripped up is that the coach suddenly becomes, and this is where that Nick Trigadilli, whatever the fuck his name is getting it all twisted. A coach is different than a trainer, as well as a trainer being different than a guru, and a guru being very different than a financial advisor, a psychological coach, a mentor. I pay a trainer to train me. I may pay a dietitian to do my diet. All the other stuff is noise. My trainer is not qualified to tell me what steroids to take, and I don't care how much information you have. Bill Sarchev included, very well-read individual. I've seen the books that he reads. There's no degree that comes behind it. I can read all kind of stuff and go perform surgery on my dog. Is it legal? I can read all kind of stuff on pharmacology and medicines and all that stuff. Can I go out and start prescribing medications, or is that against the law? So where I get really passionate and very defensive is the trainer becomes the guru, becomes the dealer, becomes the advisor, the mentor, the one-stop shop person for this fragile individual who simply just wants to be the best they can be as an athlete. And they fast track everything. Forget the training. If you're going to start training, you need to eat this and you need to take that and you need to call me and check in and make sure you send me my PayPal money. I get really hot and very heated because I don't think all coaches are that way. And the coaches that are not that way, I give them a high five. We need more coaches out there that actually teach the basics and the mechanics of training and nutrition. All that other stuff on the local, on the city, on the state level, it's fucking ridiculous. It's noise. For a trainer to tell me they got 20 years of experience taking steroids qualifies them to advise someone, and they don't even have a freaking trophy to match up with the pedigree and the knowledge they claim that they know. Now, granted, there's a lot of trainers out there that may be more street smart in the sense like Charles Glass. Charles Glass is a much better trainer than he ever was a bodybuilder, and he's got an IFBB national title and a Mr. Universe title, and he participated in the Olympia. Those are 3 big milestones in the life of a bodybuilder that most bodybuilders getting in this game could only dream of achieving. But Charles knew he wasn't going to be a great bodybuilder, so he turned his focus to coaching. And he's in the gym every day training people. You visually can see the results and these transformations these athletes are going through. How many times have you seen Chad Nichols in a gym with Ronnie Coleman training? How many times have you seen these so-called coaches working these athletes out? I got a slew of DMs and a shit ton of messages from protocols that these coaches are sending from across the country and around the world to a bodybuilder they look at on Skype. And they tell them, don't drink water, take this Diazide, use this Aldactone, take this much steroids, They're not even in the freaking room. They have no idea what this athlete looks like, but yet they're qualified because they've got 20 years of a mediocre bodybuilding career and studying a few books to tell somebody that they're not even in their own presence what to take, how to take it, when to take it, and why they should take it. The trainers have crossed the freaking line. And there's good trainers, but either you train or you coach. Are you a steroid guru guy to go to? Because if that's what you are, own it. Are you the guy to go to for steroids? Chad?
That's what I am.
Kilos for diuretics? Are you the guy that does the insulin? Are you the guy that does the growth hormone? Stop hiding behind this word coaching.
Right,
Stop
I agree.
behind the word trainer. It's
I
all
agree.
being blended, and every trainer out there should be pissed off at every guru out there that's trying to give these guys steroids and ask them for money. So I can tell you, the lines have been crossed and blended. And what's going to happen coming up in the near future is that when these athletes register and they write down their coaches' names, when something happens to that athlete, they're going to start looking at the communication between the athlete and the coach.
They should.
And as soon as they start looking at the communication between the deceased athlete and the coach that they paid money to get this advice from, those DMs, those emails, those voice messages, they better not reek of manslaughter, because we're going to start dragging in some coaches to be brought up on charges. I know if my son, my teenage kid, goes to learn about bodybuilding from a former professional or some trainer that's supposed to be in the gym teaching him how to train, that may be advising him on what food to eat. All that other stuff is noise. And if you're advising them on steroids and on diuretics and on all that other bullshit, you better own it. I'm coming for you. I'm going to start calling them out by name. I'm going to be paying attention to these athletes that are dying globally, to who their coaches are, and I'm going to be calling them out. Social media has changed the game.
Let me ask you a question, Sean. Let me ask you a question, because I mean, this is a problem. You got people that are competing. They want to know how to take drugs. I mean, back in the day when you were doing this, we and myself too, we learned it all on our own. I don't know. Did you read Dan Duchesne's book? Did you read some of the stuff that was out there?
Duchesne? Why am I going to read what Dan Duchesne? Dan Duchesne is dead because of the bullshit that he took and the bullshit that he read. I like anything else, I'm going to use the analogy, and maybe Nick Trigonelli, whatever his name is, will understand it. Did somebody teach him how to have sex? Did someone teach him how to masturbate? He had to figure it out. You know, there are people out there that go to school and get degrees and they're living on the street. There's other people that open their own business and they have employees working for them. Do you think Elon Musk is a brilliant person, or Jeff Bezos is just so much smarter than all of us that we couldn't figure it out? They caught a wave, figured it out, and they ran with it. Okay? It's called capitalism. Some people are better off doing certain things. They're more passionate. You want to know how many bodybuilders are so pissed off and upset that I'm still getting sponsorship deals? I'm still in the bodybuilding industry making money after 20 years of retirement. There's a lot of bodybuilders that just can't stand that. Ask Lee Priest. I made an education. I got my degree in bodybuilding. I didn't just talk shit about the prize money. I generated prize money. I didn't talk shit about the sponsorships. I went out and created sponsorships and donated my own money. I didn't talk crap about the posing. I went out and created the Best Poser Award. I wasn't just talking shit about the smaller bodybuilders. I helped create the 202-pound division. I talked crap about some of these crappy run bodybuilding shows. So what did I do? I went out and I created my own contest. Phil Heath won the first Sean Ray Classic. Kai Green won the second Sean Ray Classic. I created the Sean Ray Classic in Baltimore for 4 years. I'm in Hawaii for 5 years. I put my money where my mouth is. I've trained people, plenty of people. But training for me is going in the gym and beat the shit out of them the way that I got the shit kicked out of me by my trainer when I started as a teenager. I didn't have to have somebody hold my hand through the pharmacological world and say, take this and take that. I just would not do that. Then there are people that do. Can I ask you a question?
Can I ask you a question? Because when I didn't administer my first shot. Okay, somebody actually gave me my first shot. And I remember how it was. No, the guy did not educate me on steroids. He just gave me my first shot. Did you know how to do that yourself, or did you have someone?
It's not a matter of knowing. It's trial and error. Did you know how much protein you need every day when you started out lifting weights?
No, it was trial and error.
How much you could bench? It's through trial and error that you learn your body. I didn't do the growth hormone and the insulin that everybody's in.
I don't think you. Looking at your physique, Sean, I don't think you ever took growth hormone. I'm just going for the record. You look aesthetic.
My point is that a lot of coaches are hung up on, well, who taught you? You ever see the movie A Few Good Men?
Yeah, of course.
One of the major scenes in there, they were trying to say to the officers, well, how did you know where the mess hall was if you didn't see it in the manual? It wasn't in the book. How did you know where to go? Bodybuilding is a journey. I've said it my entire life of trial and error. Nick Trigonometry was over there saying, oh, well, Sean Ray, he's acting like you can just eat anything and be a bodybuilder. No, I didn't just eat anything. I was a student of bodybuilding. I learned what bodybuilding foods to eat. Did I count calories? No. Am I smarter than the next bodybuilder? No. Am I smarter than Chad Nichols? Hell yeah. I was a professional bodybuilder in the Hall of Fame. He's on the outside, maybe competed. I don't even know if the guy did compete. But him and Dan Duchesne and these little lab rat guys that have no degrees behind their name can't tell me, because they read a few books, what I need as a 5'7", 230-pound bodybuilder, what I need to take, how much I need to shoot. No, I wouldn't take that advice.
You had mentioned before about like these guys like Chad Nichols giving what you thought was an unfair advantage. Can you say specifically what you think that was? Because there's a lot of rumors about plasma expanders and diuretics.
Let's back up. I'm not going to say an unfair advantage, because if there's no rules.
Right, exactly.
The gloves
Thank
are
you.
on.
Thanks for clearing that up.
And I don't know what the hell he was giving them, whether it was plasma expander, whatever the hell he was giving them. Let's look at the track record. Where's Nassar?
Yeah.
Where's Nassar? Where's Don Long? Where's Flex Wheeler? Where's Art Atwood?
Yep.
Where's Trevor Smith? You tell me where all these people that he's such a genius, where are they all at today? And then let's go back and look at where I wound up. I can compare wits with Chad all day long. I'm not going to talk about plasma expanders and diuretics. I mean, that's his thing that he's giving someone else. You do realize that Michael Jackson's doctor was in the room when he died, right?
I do. Yeah, I do.
You realize that he went to jail after he died, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. I agree with you. I think these people should be held accountable for it. I totally agree with you. There's no question.
One coach that's been dragged into the court of law. But I tell you what, if it's somebody that I know and they died, I'm going to be all over this like white on rice. That's where I'm at.
So in retrospect to the bad coaches, how do you see somebody being able to help someone in a positive way without them getting hurt?
Have these trainers / gurus stop masking a rating as if they're going to try to help them get to the next level by giving them some magic potion. These athletes are giving everything to these trainers, and it goes from paying for training advice on online or in person to nutritional advice to take a little bit of this and take a little bit of that. Who qualifies you to tell me how much testosterone I need because you got my blood work? You know suddenly what I need? What you give me might kill me. And if you give me that in writing, it's going to come back to you. I'm the kind of father that will chase my daughter's killer to the death. Because if you gave my daughter some advice that put her in the ground, I'm coming for you. And I think every parent out there should be aware of what their athletes or their sons and daughters are doing. But we know in bodybuilding, the things that people do, we do them behind closed doors. That's why I like to use masturbation and sex as a good analogy. Because I don't think between the three of us, anybody knows how much we masturbate. You tell your friends?
Yeah, it's a very good
analogy. I think he likes to tell everyone about how much he masturbates. But aside from me being the exception. No, you know what? I agree with what you're saying, Sean. I agree with a lot like what you're saying here. But one of the parts that really bothers me is when, so you see, like, I'm sure you've heard of some of these protocols, Stacy's protocols. I mean, you're hearing people taking Aldactone for 30 days straight, and you go, where in the fuck did you learn that? What is the purpose of that? This is dangerous. Like, does he even understand the relationship of something so basic as sodium and potassium? Because when the bodies are lining up, I mean, it's clearly evident that this guy is dangerous to bodybuilders, and bodybuilders are looking to gain knowledge through someone, a coach like him, that they seem to they respect or they're trusting with their career, their training, their coaching, whatever, and their bodies and their health, and then they're dying. I mean, it's unacceptable.
Shelby's been doing extreme programs for a long time.
But again, all coaches are not created equal. And the ones that get offended when I open my mouth, maybe they should consider their protocols, because
I agree.
If they're doing the things I'm saying, they better sleep with one eye open. They better stop text messaging protocols to their athletes because their athletes are going to start sharing them. It's already out there.
Mm-hmm.
They put those emails in writing. Those athletes are now going to start sharing and asking. You know how many athletes have trainers that have come to me and said, hey, does this look right to you? And when it doesn't look right to me, they're going to get exposed. I'm going to go out on a public forum and go, hey, does this look right? 30 days on aldactone, X number of milligrams. Nothing is private anymore when you're giving out bullshit. So if you're a coach, you coach. If you want to advise, advise. But these guys are taking money for this misinformation. Maybe it's not misinformation. You might think it's perfectly well within your means to size me up as a 5'7", 230-pound bodybuilder that I only need 3 cc's of testosterone a week. That might be your educated opinion based on the books that you might have read that somebody else wrote that you believe to be factual, that you think is going to help me. And you've got my blood work to back it up. But you still don't know my health history based on my blood work.
No.
So I take those 3 cc's a week and I develop bitch tits.
Right.
I break out in zits.
Right.
My face is all pimply. Start losing my hair. You chalk it up to hormones. Oh, you're going through the change. You're stressed out. You need to take an estrogen blocker. Suddenly
Right.
I'm going
Exactly.
testosterone to your advice about estrogen blockers. You become the all-knowing coach that's going to fix my problem that you helped create.
Exactly. 100%. 100%. I mean, let's use that same example with what may be giving someone good advice. And that would be if the person is taking a dose that they feel comfortable with. Let's say they decide they want to take 500 milligrams. Okay. And they start getting gyno. Then someone giving them good advice would say, stop taking everything. Get your blood checked. Don't even take an AI. Don't take anything. Just stop taking everything. Get your blood checked and then deal with the issue before you continue on with your cycle. But we don't see that. Now we see someone putting a Band-Aid on the problem by telling them to take some Arimidex or Aromacin and then keep on with the high dose. And that's totally not logical.
Well, let me ask you this. If your intentions are to coach someone and advise someone, why even go into there's not anybody that's going to run around and pop up on the internet going, I sold Sean Ray this, I gave Sean Ray that, this is what his cycle was, this guy's full of shit. It's not going to happen because it was very personal to me what I did. Mm-hmm. And you got to remember, I'm the first guy to fail a steroid test, so I've never professed to be drug-free. I had a guy message me and say, well, if you're so concerned about the athletes, why don't you start a petition and I'm not concerned about the athletes. I'm watching this movie like everybody else.
I saw that actually. For some reason,
do you think that today the athletes look better than in the 90s when I was coming up? Do you think they look better?
No, okay. I don't. I think bodybuilding has taken a turn for the worse, if you want my honest opinion.
I think it's because of too much drugs. It's because of too much drugs.
Hit the nail on the head. They look worse because you have too many hands in the freaking kitchen. You got too many people trying to mix up the freaking formula. You got too many people listening to people so that nobody knows what they are capable of. And this was my argument. Exactly true. That Nick Trigonometry idiot comes on board and goes, well, every athlete has a coach. Yeah, well, when I came up, every athlete didn't have a coach. And guess what? We looked better. We had trainers. I used to watch Dorian's videos. And I saw his trainer and they're kicking the shit out of him. I used to watch Lee Haney with his Superman training partner.
Superman.
Out of him. I had guys in the gym. I had sparring partners. We were battling in the gym. But when I went home, I didn't get on the phone and I didn't invite some skinny, scrawny guy that's never been on an Olympia stage to tell me what I'm going to do with my health and my chemistry. I just didn't do it. Now, am I smarter than everyone else because I'm healthy and I'm an able-bodied person? No, but I mean, when you see things, when you see danger, when you see that fight breaking out a couple of rows over and it's moving your way, you see the tidal wave coming in because the water's been sucked away from the shore. You got some calculated decisions to make. Either you're going to run towards that train wreck or you're going to slowly move away from it. And I've had a lot of bodybuilding friends along the way that were engaging in some stuff, that very nefarious stuff, that wound up in jail. I don't have to name names. You know who went to jail in the bodybuilding community.
Of course.
I knew all of these guys. They were coming. You know who the guys are that wound up doing too much ecstasy and
dude, I trained Craig Titus, so I know all about it. I saw you in Venice in 95 when I was doing a photo. But listen, let me ask you something about this, Sean, because we just recently lost Phil Hernon, and a lot of people don't know the story about how he beat Craig Titus. But he was cramping up really bad from whatever diuretics that he took. I don't want to get into that. And the person that was there with Craig Tice, do you remember Jennifer Greenbaum?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Her husband was a real estate guy, chain smoker, tall guy, professed to know a lot about drugs, but never really lifted weights. He's passed also. He died of colon cancer, rest in peace. But I wouldn't train Craig because Craig wasn't going to do my final week's prep. Okay. And it wasn't necessarily about the diuretics. Actually, he took more diuretics than what I was suggesting. He just thought the show was his because he came in second to DeMeo and they said, go to Denver, it's your show. Correct. And so he figured it was his show. Now, Phil was cramping up so bad that he wasn't going to be able to make it on stage. Richard calls me up and I tell him what to tell Phil that he needed some salt. So he ate some salt. He had a few gulps of water. He's fine. Next thing you know, he beats Craig. In that case, if he didn't have somebody to talk to, he wouldn't have made it on stage. You see what I'm saying? So sometimes advice can be in a good way. It's not necessarily giving advice on how to take drugs.
No. You're glossing over some shit. You got to ask yourself how you wound up in that state. Okay, I can only talk from first person. It's never been me. I did 14 Olympias. Phil Herndon did the USAs, and he was one and done.
Right.
14 Olympias. I've been in that position a whole lot more over a decade of my life consecutively. I was criticized because I didn't change a lot, but I also didn't experiment a lot either. There is a fine line between use and abuse. You recall in 1994, only 1 year earlier, that Paul Dillette was carried off the stage.
Of course, yeah.
Because of a famous RX Muscle co-host and guru in the form of John Romano shot him up with Lasix. Yeah, he might regret it now. But guess what? John Romano didn't get carted off the stage in front of 2,000-3,000 fans. Paul Dillette, after 12 months or a year of preparation for this competition, Paul is humiliated on stage, near-death situation, gets not $1 for his efforts,
and he could have won.
Dragged off the stage, and John Romano goes into hiding. We didn't have the internet so that we could find out what happened and who did what. But we know that John Romano was the advisor. And what did John Romano ever do on a bodybuilding stage? You can add. So no, you don't necessarily have to have a great body to be a trainer. When you start advising people on what to take, what not to take, and you're talking about one instance, you're talking about some advice you gave one bodybuilder in a time of distress that probably should have never been in distress. This is the USA. Why do you feel like you're going to die? Ronnie Coleman in 2001 was in a bathtub full of ice with his trainer Chad Nichols in the room.
I heard the story. No, it doesn't. He wasn't
supposed to make it to the stage. He was almost dead.
That's insane.
His trainer in the room having him drink gallons of water in a bathtub full of ice the night before he goes out for the Mr. Olympia. So what? He's his savior? Ronnie Coleman believes so. That he was saved.
No, he shouldn't have put him in that situation in the first place.
If Chad saved you, how did you wind up there in the first place?
That's exactly it. How did you wind up?
I agree.
So my point and my passion, and I get fired up. Well, Nick Trigonometry says I'm talking out my ass and he never busted a grape. I think he won the USA and disappeared. He's probably more of a lab rat than anybody. But I did this whole thing for 14 years on the professional level. I didn't get to where I'm at because I knew more than everyone. I trusted the process. I got my education through trial and error. And again, when I start using analogies, because I think it's good to color things up with analogies. I was talking about paintings. An artist paints. Sure, they learn how to paint. They go to school. Someone tells them, what colors and brushes and oils and canvases, and you learn. That's what I did as a teenager. I bounced around from every gym in the freaking country, training with different partners, reading all the magazines, absorbing everything I could in video, learning about pharmacology, nutrition. I'm studying. This is me. I only have one body.
I did the same thing, Sean. I did the same thing. I have respect for you. I have so much respect for you because I wanted to be like you, who did everything on his own, and so I did the same thing on my own. But what ended up happening is that so many people, they either see who you help or they see me. In my case, I was a teenage bodybuilder doing really well, and people like Don Long were in the audience. They were seeing me. They're like, I want to look like that. Can you help me? And so one thing led to another, and next thing you know, you're helping like 10 people because of the way you looked as a teenager. But I really studied. Like a lot of people don't they experiment with people. They say anybody who studied the drug Aldactone would know you can't take it for a month. I mean, that's ludicrous. Some of the things that these people are doing, it's kind of like the throw in the kitchen sink type approach. You know what I mean? It looks like in your career, I think you found, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you found what worked for you, and you didn't experiment. You just did what worked for you, and you just stayed persistent at it. Correct?
Absolutely did. Because you
Yeah.
know what? I looked around at what I was trying to do. I was coming up behind a two-time first Olympia runner-up in the name of Muhammad Makaway.
Mm-hmm.
1983 and 1984, I was a junior and senior in high school. That was when I was getting introduced to bodybuilding.
Right.
Muhammad Makaway is 5'0". He might be 5'2" on a good day. He might have been 165 pounds. Got second to Samir Banu in 1983, who's only 5'6" and 190.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't until 1984 the game changed with Lee Haney coming in at 5'11", maybe 230 pounds. So the game changed when I started to graduate high school. But I looked at the success of Lee Labrada coming up behind Makaway. And Lee Labrada, 5'5", maybe 5'6", 175, 180 pounds tops. So in my economy, I don't have to be as big as Ronnie Coleman to win. In my mindset, I don't have to be massive. Look at Chris Dickerson, 1982 Mr. Olympia. Look at Tom Platz. So
Right.
You got to remember where I come from. There's not even any teenage bodybuilders anymore. Okay.
Right. I know.
Introduction to bodybuilding comes in your late 20s after you figured out you're out of college, you gone through a divorce, you started a family, you got a job. Suddenly you're
It's so true.
25, 26, 30 years old. You want to bodybuild. You don't want to build the foundation that a teenage bodybuilder did. Listen,
Exactly.
Lee Haney was a teenage national champion. Jay Cutler was a teenage national champion.
You were too.
Myself.
You were also, yeah.
Of course, Eddie Robinson. So I can only talk from a place of experience. So when they go, well, it was a different time, Sean. Back then there were no coaches. There were plenty of coaches. What there weren't was a bunch of people trying to load you up on gear. The coaches were holding you back to try to get your potential maxed out first.
You're right. Actually, what it was there was trainers in the gym, coaches in the gym, and then there were steroid dealers.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then somehow
in that group.
Absolutely. Listen, I'm not gonna lie, man. I was busted for selling steroids at 19 years old too. So
John
I mean,
Romano, you'd be hard pressed to find a trainer, guru, that hasn't been brought up on charges with steroids dealing for profit. Now you'll find these guys out there going, I don't sell steroids. What, you give them to your clients for free and you charge them on your monthly?
It's the same thing. It's the same thing.
It's the same thing.
And I don't want to mention names, but you in your video for Digital Muscle, you mentioned pretty much everyone but me. But some of the people that you'd mentioned, actually, they came to me too. They asked me for advice. So it's now you have like coaches asking other people for advice for their clients too. It's really gotten to that level now.
Well, here's what's going to happen. As you coach, it'll happen to you too, with pure intentions to help someone genuinely. When that conversation blends from training and nutrition and preparation into the pharmacology of diuretics and steroids, they're going to fact check you with someone else. They're going to go, hey, guess what? So-and-so told me to take this. Does that sound right to you? I get it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're at a place where these people are dying. When they start comparing stories, these stories are going to start trickling up to people that actually have show. I have a show. I don't want anyone dying at my show. If someone dies at my show, I'm getting to the bottom of it. I'm going to be Perry Mason getting to the bottom of it, because you don't go to shows to have heart attacks. You don't go to shows to die the night before the contest. You don't go to show to cramp up on stage and need an EMT and have the trainer run up on stage and claim to know more than the EMT.
Yeah, that's not cool.
I got into a big debate with a trainer/guru who says he knows more than the doctors because he's a bodybuilder. And the doctor's coming in trying to administer this or that or whatever could actually kill the patient because I had them on this, that, or the other, and they don't know that.
Which is a crime. That's a crime right there. You can't prescribe people. You could if you say I had them on, that means directly under supervision. But if you say, this is what people use for pre-contest and they do it on their own, that's a different story.
Well, at the same token, as soon as you insert yourself into this life-saving situation, it's a problem.
It is.
Because you don't know more than the doctor. The doctor may not know about bodybuilders and all the shit that they do with dehydration and calorie
But he
counting,
knows about saving
carb
lives.
depletion. But they are there to save lives, and you
Yeah.
can't. And even if
Yeah.
you can, you have to ask yourself, why is this athlete in distress in the first place?
Under your guidance. Yeah,
Under
exactly.
your guidance, or
Yeah.
these athletes should not be showing up on the one day where it's supposed to be fun. And I had fun my entire. Listen, everybody wants to win. So in the moment of defeat, it's not fun.
Right.
But that night,
Up until that point. Yeah.
well, that night, I mean,
Yeah.
I was getting paid to do what I did. How
Sure.
could it not be fun? I mean, yeah, you want those zeros after the number, but listen, when you realize the level of competition that I actually rose to, you never heard me go to the microphone and say, I want to thank this person, and this person, because for me, it was personal. It was masturbation 101.
Right.
I wasn't sharing my protocols with other people because they didn't need to be in my business. So was I smarter than Flex Wheeler, who wound up with one kidney? Was I smarter than Don Long, who wound up losing both of his kidneys? Was I smarter than Tom Prince? Was I smarter than Ronnie Coleman? I don't know. They had a guru.
This is one issue I've noticed with bodybuilding. The focus back in the day was so heavily on training, dieting, and then the supplements. It was a bit of a, hey, this is, it was part of it. But now, like you mentioned, use has turned into major abuse, and now the focus, people have gotten lazy with their training, lazy with their dieting, and they're taking so much shit that it's just shifted in a different direction. Before, you'd have people at competitions, they'd say, hey, how did you do this? Oh, what did you do? Okay, people helping each other out. Now, like you mentioned, capitalism, you've got these trainers out there, you've got that guy Shelby. People have mentioned he's got 400 clients. Who the fuck can train 400 clients for competitions? That's insane. 400 clients?
Well,
I'm a trainer.
This is where the common sense goes out. These athletes are prey. I did an interview and I said, we have a lot of misfits. I didn't want to take myself out of the equation. I'm a misfit too, because this is a cult sport. Just to be in this, parading around naked and looking at yourself in the mirror and flexing all the time, it's not normal. Okay?
Right. Yeah.
And I've been that guy walking past a glass in the mall, and I
Sure.
find myself looking at
absolutely.
I've gone into a bathroom to take a piss and go, wow, look at these lights.
Guilty.
So what I'm saying is we come here together because we are kind of misfits. But we know, with the clients, I know with the bodybuilders, there's some very fragile egos. You say the wrong thing and they'll come unglued. You push them the wrong direction and they do the wrong thing. You start off with good intentions. They come in and you see, I'll use a girl named Denise Rakowski, a national champion, very beautiful girl, a top Olympian. She freaking lost her mind in this sport when it was over. There's so many athletes that go the wrong direction when the sport's over. Paul DeMeo, Quadzilla, he died of a heroin overdose.
Yeah.
Come on. I mean, there's a lot of things that we have issues with. So if the right trainer, the right guru gets with the right client is just, he's an open book. He's a bank account. He's an ATM machine. Because these gurus are not there simply to make you better. This is work. This guy had 400 clients. It's capitalism. It's an enterprise.
It's his job.
On the bikini level. The bikini girls have coaches that have 30, 40, 50, 100 clients. And he's going to one room. And they're going there because this guy has winners. He's latched himself onto some champions. And all the girls want to come to this guy.
Yes.
And they're all doing things that when they started bikini competition, they never, ever thought they would be doing some of the things that they're doing. But because all these other bikini champions are doing it, they got to do it too. And suddenly, this coach is sharing personal private information because I've got this winner over here on that. And this is what she's taking. And I think if you take half of this might help you. These guys are suddenly doctors without degrees, advisors and psychologists without any clinical training. And they're also the guys that's taking the money. Coming in. It's a steady flow of money. And if I go up there and I win and I put my trainer on a pedestal,
he gets more clients.
To that trainer.
And
if we take a good look at some of these trainers and we pull the curtain back, you're going to find it's not about training the athlete. There's a whole lot of, all that pharmacology should not be attached to it. It wasn't attached to it when I was training. John Brown was beating my ass in the gym, and I had to find my way home and cook my food and get my recovery and my rest. It's the only way I was going to grow. Now, they don't even kick your ass in the gym. They start you off with, here's what you're going to need to get your hands on. Here's how long you're going to have to take it. Put my money on the PayPal. I might come to the contest. I got a lot of other clients in this show that I'm working with. And the next thing you know, they take their eye off of you because they've got other athletes competing at the same exact time.
Absolutely.
In the same show or in other shows. Now, I personally would rather have a trainer that trained me. I don't need a chemist. I didn't sign up for a chemist. I'm a bikini competitor. We got girls dying. And when girls start dying, the parents start paying attention. Because now suddenly you have the alpha male going, that's my daughter. These guys are dying of heart attacks. They're in their 40s. They're competing longer than they probably should.
Different story,
They're not taking good care of themselves in the off season. And, a lot of guys are running gear long after their bodybuilding career is over because now we have HRT. Do you know what that is?
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
It's cruising.
Well, there's
like,
HRT, then there's the HRT, right?
Yeah. So I'm getting it from my doctor. My doctor says I'm 45 years old and my test levels are low, so he's running me some maintenance shit. Well, it all adds up, man. You look back.
You got name recognition too, Sean. There's that particular coach. No need to mention his name again, but there are a lot of women that just say that they were working with him. I guess prior to this incident, because he was so popular amongst the women that just to say that you're working with him almost gets you looked at.
And I wouldn't be surprised if that's true.
Yeah.
I see coaches showing up at these NPC shows, 20 and 30 competitors deep. You think the promoter's not happy? The promoter's like, I love it.
Of course.
You're bringing
That's the problem.
30 athletes at $150 a pop.
It's taken a wrong turn. It's become it's not even like the sport. It's become an industry. It's a money-making industry for so many different people. And it's taken a wrong shift, I found, over the years.
I think the accountability factor is, I watched a show in Atlanta. And it was the women. I'm not sure if it was the women bodybuilder or the women physique. But we were on the third call out. And in the third call out, which you already know, you're not in the top 6. They did the comparisons. This girl, hey, are you okay? You need help? No, I'm okay. Squats down, gets up, catches her breath, towels off. Do more. This girl's not even in the top 10. And I'm wondering, what are the judges doing here? I mean, are we trying to wait until she passes out? The judges have got to have a better sense of awareness of when these athletes are in distress. It's mandatory now when I have a show, I have 2 EMTs on location.
Yes.
So according to some trainers, they claim to be smarter than the EMTs. But one trainer can only be in one place. That one trainer that's smarter than all the doctors can only be at one show. So if my one guru trainer who's telling me he's smarter than all the doctors is in New York, and I have my show going on in Hawaii with 2 regular EMTs, the general EMTs, and not specialists, and it's a physique contest, and my athlete goes into distress and dehydration and cramping, and they go to give them, I don't know, electrolytes, and you got the other guru going, no, you give them that, you're going to kill them, the potassium, the special K. Listen, the athlete shouldn't be doing the shit that's going to kill them in the first place. How did that get to their preparation? They're not better than they were in the 90s. These trainers are ruining the look of the bodybuilders because they're not letting them build themselves naturally, build themselves over a period of time, and then figure it out. These guys don't know how they're getting there. So we got this cookie cutter program. I'm on my computer. I can print this shit up, send it off to 400 different athletes. It's like a Ponzi scheme.
It is.
How much attention are these athletes getting? None. And then when they die and the trainer's not there, they're not looking for the trainer. Luckily, we got a paper trail on this Shelby guy, right?
Yeah.
Do we have one on Chad Nichols? We keep mentioning that name. Did all of these athletes that Chad worked with, world-class athletes, die of natural causes on their own? Did he just have a string of bad luck working with Dallas McCarver, who's dead? Did he have a string of bad luck working with all these guys with kidney issues? Tom Prince, Flex Wheeler, Don Long, Don Youngblood, who's dead. These guys all had kidney issues and death issues. Art Atwood. How do we have this one common denominator, and he's a state chairman running shows? Just bad luck to have these guys that you actually work with, and you don't go to any funeral. I don't get it. And he's not the only one. We're talking about Shelby today. We'll be talking about somebody tomorrow.
There's a handful of them right now.
That first coach, that first guru that gets drug into the freaking courtroom and gets associated with manslaughter because of the protocols and advice he gave some bikini competitor, some teenage athlete, some Masters competitor that's just trying to get a trophy because you ain't going anywhere in the Masters. There's no Masters Pro contest that you're going to get paid prize money for. So when that person dies and he's got grandkids and you got some 35-year-old has-been washed-up bodybuilder that's given him his entire protocol and he's dead and gone forever, that one guru is going to change the game when he goes to jail.
It's going to happen. It's going to happen, and it's going to be under manslaughter, and you're right. And I wouldn't be surprised if they don't investigate his text messages because this is not the first one, apparently. That's the scary thing.
Well, it's apparently been the fourth, from what I hear.
Well, didn't I just get done talking about one common denominator that's tied to at least 5 deaths that we know of? How many? What about the ones we don't know of on the NPC level?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Oh, who knows? Who knows? And there's never any accountability. That's the worst thing. They never want to accept responsibility or accountability. And there's no markers. There's no like, oh well, you because of this you went too far. Because of that you went too far. You should stop. They just go pedal to the metal without even talking to you.
Well, there's a lot of deniability here because as a coach you say, well, I told him to take this, and I found out he was taking that. You know, I know a lot of people were saying that, well, Dallas McCarver was just a drug addict and all this other stuff. No, but your fingerprints are in there. You're advising him for a period of time.
Yeah.
I came out as soon as I saw this union take place. I said, this guy's going to be dead in 6 months. He died 8 months later.
Yep.
So my point is, we're at a place in time where my attack is on the guru. My attack's not on the trainer. My attack is not on the coach. My attack is not on the nutritionist. Sorry. My thing is, if you're a trainer, then train. Because that's what I had to work with. And you can talk shit all you want, but my track record shows what I did. I'm not smarter than any other bodybuilder out there. I'm over here talking about I didn't count calories. I didn't weigh my food. I don't know my arm measurements. These are things I didn't care about. And this Nick Dick is over here saying, how's that possible? Well, it's possible. How's it possible that Elon Musk got to where he's at? How did Jeff Bezos, one individual, get to where he's at? How did Joe Weider create this entire thing? I'm invested in bodybuilding as a pro-am promoter, a spokesperson, a product endorser. I've worked with literally every bodybuilder doing interviews. I've been interviewed. I've done every aspect of bodybuilding. I know the sport of bodybuilding. I know a drug dealer when I see one. I know a guru masquerading behind the word trainer when I see one. You know how I know? Because I never used them.
Mm-hmm.
I ran from them. I turned the other direction. And I made sure that they didn't get their fingerprints or their hooks into my psychology. And the athletes in vain are looking for help. Can you help me? I want to win the national. Can you help me get to the national level? I want to get my IFBB pro card. And immediately this experienced guy that's already dealt with all these other people in the past is like, you're going to have to do some things you probably don't want to do, but if you want to compete with them, it's what they're all doing. And now this guru's got to figure out how much he's going to provide and what he's going to charge. Because I don't know a guru out there providing free drugs. There are no free drugs. Those gurus get the drugs, they mark them up, and they pass them on to their client. And I'm going to tell you, at 55 years old, it's a game changer for me. I'm going to be looking for these guys. These are the guys they're going to have an X on their freaking back. When I hear about and see somebody in distress, we're going to investigate. You're talking about you talk about that athlete going down, cramping and all that other stuff like Phil Herndon.
Right. Yeah.
When we see that happening, there's going to be more questions other than what did you eat? How do you feel? Let's get you back to health. No, we're going to find out how you wound up in that position.
What if they ended up doing it from their own careless experimentation?
Well, here's the thing. Most of them aren't. They're not dying on their own experimentation. They're dying with freaking coaches telling them what to do.
You're right about that. The only person I think that we may have been able to put in that category was Ben Aziza. Is that correct?
People knew
Ben
about
Aziza,
no.
He didn't have a coach, right?
He didn't have someone directing the whole thing.
Right.
People knew about Ben Aziza, including Wayne DeMilia, who was the vice president of the federation. Wayne DeMilia knew what Ben Aziza was doing.
Oh, he knew
He didn't
about the
pay
whole
attention.
potassium and Lasix and all that.
He wasn't paying attention. Benaziza went like 3 days, 4 days without water, eating
We went
pureed
for
apple.
yeah, just apple puree. Yeah, it was
People
crazy.
were aware of the extremes that Benaziza was going to, which is why they instituted the diuretic
The
testing.
diuretic testing. Yeah.
And of course, Nasser El Somebody was third at the Olympia in 1996 and failed the diuretic test. And they didn't award him his prize money, but they never took back his medal. They never made, I don't want to say an example, but it wasn't used as a
They
deterrent.
didn't do like they did with you at the Arnold.
Well, remember,
I
the
heard you
Arnold,
had I heard you had to go give your trophy back. That
I
must
didn't
have
have to
been
go.
like,
I didn't have to go and do
or
anything.
take it
I
to
dropped
Gold's
my
Gym.
trophy. I dropped my trophy at Gold's Gym and where I
Yeah.
trained, and that was
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
I wasn't made an example of. Look, they got rid of the steroid testing as fast as it came. 1 year it lasted, it was gone.
Yeah, it was gone. Yeah.
Diuretic testing took on a life of its own after Benaziza, and it remained. And Nasser failed the test in '96, and you barely even heard a whisper. I mean,
Yeah.
this was an opportunity to use a high-profile athlete to deter people from diuretics, but there was barely a whisper. And we know that several people have gone on to the pearly muscle gates of heaven after Nasser's failed diuretic test. And the following year, Nasser came back and he was second in Olympia. Jay Cutler failed the diuretic test in 2001, and nothing was done. So the diuretic
Well,
testing.
Jay threatened to sue, so that's why
Correct.
nothing was
What I'm
done.
saying, the diuretic testing deterred no one.
Right.
And what I'm saying is, these were high-end Olympia bodybuilders, and we're dealing with NPC bikini girls and people that are starting out, not at the Olympia level.
Yeah,
We're
it
talking about
doesn't
people
make
that are
sense.
starting out. What was that show over there? Was it the Alicante show? Was it I don't know what it was, an Olympia qualifying show. You had 2 athletes die. Those are just the 2 we know of recently. These guys are dropping like flies all over the place. Diuretic is a killer. These athletes are not trying to figure out how much diuretics they should take on their own. These are coaches, puppet masters, telling them what to do, how much to take, probably even providing it. And these guys die, and the coaches are off scot-free. You said Shelby Stars has like 400 athletes at $500, whatever the hell that is. I saw that he donated €1,000. But you know what the GoFundMe is about? The GoFundMe is about trying to get her body back from Europe to the States, and it cost $7,000. If Shelby, that was his client, and he's making that kind of money, bring her home. You don't need a GoFundMe. This is all I can do for my client because I was working with her. She died on my watch. Fuck it, I'll bite the bullet and I'll bring her home. It's the least I can do. It's
an admission of guilt. That's never going to happen. Well, what do you suggest? What do you suggest athletes do these days? So obviously we don't want to go into these hack trainers and hack gurus because they don't know what they're talking about. Where can someone get good advice, Sean? I mean, I'd like to say I give good advice, but no, besides myself,
again, I go back to the George Floyd killing. That cop that killed him is an example of himself. He's not an example of the entire force, right? I know good cops. And while I'm screaming for him to go straight to jail and a life sentence, and I can't stand what he did, and yes, we need some reform, and yes, we need some better teaching and all this other stuff, the good cops shouldn't be mad at that rhetoric. The good gurus, the good trainers shouldn't be mad about the rhetoric that I'm saying about accountability and just even discussing the protocols with an athlete that comes to you. Why are we going to talk to a bikini girl about a diuretic? Period. If I'm a trainer, I'm going to train her. I don't need her to know about diuretics in the beginning of our preparation. I don't even want her doing diuretics because I'm logical enough to know what diuretics can do to someone. So why am I going to put
especially at the beginning of the prep?
Well, she's my cash cow. You're my client. Yeah. I want you forever. Yeah. I don't want to kill you and I kill my revenue.
Right.
So what do? We tell the trainers to stop advising these guys on. Look, if people are going to do what they do, then there's no responsibility. You give me a car that goes 150 miles an hour and tell me that the speed limit's 55. It's up to me to drive responsibly. I know that speed kills, and if I crash because I'm speeding, I made an example of myself. It's not you saying, Sean, your car goes 150. Let's see how fast we can go. And then I get in the thing and I drive it 150 miles an hour. We crash. You survive the crash and you go, hey, I wasn't driving. I just wanted to see how fast it would go, and he did it.
Right.
We got to be responsible as a trainer. You, as a trainer, when they say, what diuretic should I take? You deter them from it. You don't listen. It's nice if they win, but guess what? It's more important to save their life.
Of course.
I can freaking go 150 miles an hour in my car because it says it goes 150 miles an hour. I've never tried it because I know speed kills. I also know that there's a limit. 55, 60, 70, 80. I know how fast to go before I crash this freaking car or potentially put myself in harm's way. Is it any different than drinking alcohol? When you go into a bar, it's an open bar, you're 21 plus, you got money in your pocket, you can drink the whole fucking night away if you want to. Do you? You got to ask yourself, are you responsible? I mean, we got here being responsible with alcohol, with sex, with driving cars, with walking as a pedestrian in the streets. We're still alive and we're here because we pay attention to these signs. In bodybuilding, in pharmacology, it only takes this much to maybe take you out or to trigger something. I might have some dormant cancer cells, but I take the growth hormone. Now I'm fucked up. I got leukemia. I'm fast tracked. So yeah, for me as a trainer, I'm going to try to make sure that these guys aren't, if they're going to get that advice, they're not going to get that advice from me. There's not a bodybuilder on the planet that's going to tell you I gave them steroid advice because I knew how to take them. I don't do that. I can't tell you what I did and it's going to work for you. It might kill you. It's never been in my conversation. It's never been a part of my economy, making money off of naive athletes. And then you look at like Milos and Dave Palumbo and Lee Priest that are an open book on steroids. Tom Platz, an open book on steroids because this is what they did. This is what they suggest. They're entitled to their opinion. But you know how influential kids are and hungry people. They take that shit. They write notes. They're hanging on to it. I remember how I was with Flex Magazine. I would hang on to those articles. I would open
Me too.
while I'm in the gym working out to see what's the next exercise I need to do because that's what Lee Haney and so was doing. They're like sponges. If you're giving this frivolous advice, because it's not expert advice, it's something that you did that might have worked for you. Now you're trying to pass this chemical advice on that you're not qualified to give, and something happens. I could never live with myself. But you can come in the gym with me. Let's go. I'll train you all day long. I'll try to beat the shit out of you. Try to beat the shit out of me. What's the end result of being in the gym? Progress. What's the end result of eating good food? Progress. What's the end result of telling someone they have to rest? Progress. You can shape someone into what you want them to be, but now you start messing with the pharmacology and you can kill them.
Without a doubt, but I mean, now there's still the question of people that are going to be seeking this advice and this information, and a lot of times, I think what's going to end up happening is that if the advice comes from the dealer is going to tell the client what to buy based on, he wants to make money. So that's what you're going to see. Oh, you need this, and this. Whereas maybe there's somebody who could have some kind of a.
You said maybe. Hold on. Let me ask you this. You said maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to give somebody advice on steroids in today's economy? You tell me. I'm joining your thing. I'm online. I went to your website. I want to sign up, and I start asking these questions about steroids and diuretics in today's climate. Do you want to be the one to give me advice? Because just like To Catch a Predator, that little thing pops up on your thing. Hi, how you doing?
Right.
And the next thing you know, it's like, yeah, I'm 15 years old, and you keep going. The next thing you know, you walk in the house, and you knew that was a 15-year-old, right?
Sure.
So now, if these guys get smart, and they want to catch these guys giving out this erroneous information, or whatever you want to call it, do you want to be the one to give somebody steroid advice today because you're well-read, because you have their best interest at heart? You want to be that counselor, or do you want to be the trainer that's getting me in the gym and getting me my nutrition and telling me how to be better? I'm not a counselor. I don't think you want to be a counselor on steroids, a counselor on diuretics, especially if you're not getting paid for that. Unless you're giving me steroids or diuretics, I can see yourself investing your time in that conversation. You're not going to be able to go out and mentor everyone on steroids and freaking diuretics because that's not what you're supposedly doing. You're a trainer. You got to keep it moving. You want clients that are coming to you that want to sign up to train, not counsel them on what steroids to take or not to take.
There are people like, okay, for example, Sean Roden had Chris Psycho Fitness, and then he had Chris Aceto. Big Ramy had Dennis James as his trainer, and then he had Chad Nichols. Just saying.
John
it
Rhodes,
seems like
your boy William Bonac dumped Neil Hill for whoever.
well, right.
It happens all the time.
So it seems well when Neil Hill may have been a little bit of both. I don't know if he was so much the trainer in the gym, or I'm not really sure, to be honest with you, with Bonac and Neil. But it seems like you got people that are defining themselves as trainers in the gym, and then you have people that are defining themselves as people that have the information and knowledge about the steroids and the PEDs and the
we know who they are. We know who they are.
And so what do you think? Do you think that somebody would be better off experimenting on their own? Because there's a lot of stuff out there. There's so much information out there that if the person might think SARMs
you're making it way too complicated. This Nick Trigonometry dude is over here trying to make it sound like you need someone. If you're going to be a bodybuilder, you need someone like me, 20 years in the game, to give you advice on how to do it. Really? If I pick up a guitar, I don't necessarily have to go and get lessons. I can figure that fucker out if I practice enough. You know, if I decide at 17 years old that I want to go out and have sex, I don't got to watch a porno on TV to figure out where to put it.
So it's people wanting shortcuts.
It's not only people that want shortcuts. It's almost as if what they're seeing over and over and over again is the success of an athlete associated with some guy that's standing next to them. You're hearing, I'm doing the interviews. There's some girl that just won some contest. She's not thanking her husband, unless he's a trainer, guru. They're thanking all of these trainers that they have to attach themselves to, because they think if I join Gold's Gym and I get my NPC card, I got to get a trainer because everybody else has one. And this is what these trainers are trying to make people believe. It's a freaking racket 101. I told you at the beginning of this, are the bodybuilders better today than they were in the 90s?
No, they're not.
Across the board, they are not. Flex trained with Chris trained with Charles, Paul trained with Flex, Paul trained with Chris, they trained with Charles. They were in the gym more than they were anywhere else with a trainer.
Yeah.
I applaud the trainer that takes the time to train someone.
And I think the term trainer now, kind of like you've mentioned, it's now become widely known as, okay, trainer was someone in the gym working out, pushing you, training you. Now you've got people giving advice that aren't qualified. The advice is bad. You're going from, like we said, there's use to abuse. You know, the focus is less on nutrition, less on training hard, pushing your body to the limit. I'm in the gym. I'm seeing guys. They're on their phones. They're texting. Do a set of arm curls. Like when I was training when I was younger, when I first started bodybuilding, I was 16 years old. You know, I had a trainer. He had some really bad advice, but as a trainer in the gym, he was really good. He pushed people to their limit. At the end of the workout, you felt like you're gonna fucking die. You know, you could hardly drive home. That was a workout. I don't see people working out like that anymore, Sean. That's the problem, right? People are focusing so much on the drugs, the protocols. You know, what people used to take 500 milligrams of Sustanon a week or 500 milligrams of SIP. They're taking 2 grams of test a week. They're taking, a gram of Tren. They're taking 12 IUs of GH. It's like, it's gotten insane. It has gotten way too far. And some of these trainers, like you said, they have to be accountable for what they're telling these athletes to do, because these athletes are trusting these people. You know, they're not sure. So they hire someone to teach them, and they don't have a fucking clue. The bodies are lining up. And you know what? People have to be accountable for the shit. That's where I'm at with this.
At the same time, guys, you got reckless people. I don't want to mention anybody's name because this person's health is not really good right now. You got people who get on YouTube talking about taking Tren for a whole year.
Yeah, Boston Lloyd. I mean,
I don't want to mention.
Listen, hey, that's what I do. That is what I do. They need to know.
Well, that's why I have you on, Sean, because I want you to call people out. But exactly, and now all of a sudden, you know, it's questionable what's going on with the kidneys. I mean, a year of training can fuck their kidneys up big time. I would go on a limb, Sean. You don't have to answer this if you don't want to, but based on seeing your physique, and I really did emulate. I watched your posing and everything. I considered you to be what a real bodybuilder is, not just a master, but I mean, A to Z, a bodybuilder. Like, that's you. I don't think, and I'm sorry to be saying this, but I don't think you ever took stuff like Tren, did you?
Well, what you're going to find on Google and anywhere else is that the only thing I took was Winstrol V, because that's what I failed the steroid test for.
That's what I thought. You don't look like you took anything else.
And again, I mean, I've done seminars around the world. What I took is irrelevant. I mean, that was personal to me. What I did for Sean Ray. Did I do it
Right.
responsibly? I'd like to think so. This is my money maker. Okay.
Right.
I fucked this up. Everything else I've worked for is gone. So I revered this was my temple. You know, I was very aware of what I was using, why I was using it, what the purpose was. When I stopped playing football at 17 years old in high school, you never saw me wear a football helmet again. I played it for 10 years. Okay. When I walked away from professional bodybuilding and I never stepped on a stage again, I never looked at an anabolic again because I didn't need it. I wasn't posing. It wasn't making me money. It wasn't part of my career. I left high school. I think I might have went back to my high school campus twice in 38 years because there's nothing there. I graduated high school.
Yeah, you moved
so
on.
What you find in bodybuilding is bodybuilders like to exchange stories and ideas to try to figure out what might work for them, but they stick around a little bit too long. And when they stick around a little bit too long, they're doing things longer than they probably should.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're getting into this older age, and then the roosters are coming home to roost when they're older. You can't be 50 plus years old doing the shit you were doing when you were in your 20s and your 30s. So I adapt and I adjust. Back to your question. Did I do any training? Did I do anything? I've never discussed what I did because I didn't think it had any relevance to anyone's personal life. So in my seminars, again, this is where people start getting uncomfortable. Hey, Sean, how much steroids did you take and what kind did you use and blah, blah, blah. I said, well, I'll answer your question when you answer mine. How many times a week do you masturbate? I never get an answer. It's personal. How much money is in your bank account today?
But wouldn't you agree with me, Sean?
Hold on a second. My advice on what I take, right, is not going to make you into Sean Ray.
No,
but
it's not.
But I can't tell you what will help you is how I show you how to train hard. What
Right.
will help you is when I show you what kinds of food. I don't know about how much because we're different sizes, we're different races, we've got different ambitions. But I'll tell you what foods will charge your engine. I'll give you advice on rest and recovery. I'll tell you what areas not to go in, maybe what exercises to avoid. I'll also maybe give you some advice on what kind of people to stay away from so that you can stay on this track. Is this what you want? Is this where you want to be? It's like going into high school and you want to be in the military. They really try to associate you with like the ROTC program, so you start getting indoctrinated early. You want to go to USC, Notre Dame, or Stanford. When you're in your freshman or sophomore year, you're already talking about college with some advisors. The preparation is key. My introduction might be a lot different than a lot of the people today. Okay. And I might have been fortunate because I got introduced by a professional bodybuilder who treated me like shit. I mean, if you saw the abuse that I suffered, you would wonder why the hell did I stay? But we also know that a lot of prostitutes were women that were sexually molested. We also know that there's a lot of gay predators that were sexually molested, right? So sometimes out of bad situations, you get bad people. But on the other end, you go through a bad situation and you actually become better than that. I was that guy that got my ass kicked in the gym at 17 years old to 18. For one solid year, I was the guy that was changing the weights. I was going to the grocery store. I was an errand boy trying to be like John. I've told the story a million times that without John, there's no Sean Ray. We all get introduced to something. I studied him. John Brown was the worst when it came to nutrition. He lived on Hamburger Helper and McDonald's and drank Coca-Cola. I didn't. I'm on the other side reading the books, learning that grilled chicken, fish, quality steak and beef are good for you. Carbohydrates, that wasn't John's economy. So I didn't get all of my information from that one source. I started going to Gold's Gym and I started talking to Mike Christian. I spent time with Chris Dickerson. I talked with Rich Gaspari. I was a sponge. I wanted to know it all. Is it any different than a person that's in music that they start playing the piano, then they start playing the guitar, then they're singing, and then they're making records, and the next thing you know, they become producers? It happens all the time. A guy named Ron Howard. Ron Howard starts off on a TV show when he's a little boy. Then he winds up on another one called Happy Days. Then he winds up in the movies. Then he winds up directing and producing.
Right.
I modeled myself behind people like that. I wanted to know as much as I could. The pharmacology side, I wanted to know as much as I could. It wasn't garbage in and garbage out. But at the end of the day, this is a Sean Ray journey. This is a word that's been throughout my career. It's the journey. I never tried to get there overnight. However, I did turn professional 3 years out of high school. I graduated in 1984. I was a
as light heavy.
1987.
Yeah.
I think it had to do with me going all in. And I find very rarely in my interviews with national champions, USA champions, North America champions, I find very few individuals that are all in the beginning, because they come in and they start latching themselves on other people's stuff. That's why when I put the mic up and I say, all right, you just got your pro card, what's next? Oh, I'm going to take a year off and I'm going to talk to my coach and he's going to figure it out. I'm going to strategize, because they need this. It's like a mob mentality. They need this group reassurance. I didn't need to call John and say, hey, what time are we training? When John told me what time he's going to the gym, I'm going to be there. I was showing up. I was there early, stretching. So I was trying not to let him down. I didn't want to quit. I wanted to make sure I didn't eat anything so I wouldn't throw up in the gym. And after a while, getting your ass kicked, and you start to fight back and you start to push back, they kind of welcome you. They bring you in. And now I'm not that little kid over there. I'm suddenly teenage Orange County, teenage LA, teenage California. Now I'm teenage America, and I've got the respect of my peers. I survived this boot camp, so to speak. And then I figured everything out on my own. So for whatever reason, some of the gurus coming out, who gave you your first shot? How much of this did you take? How much of that did you take? None of that stuff has to do with how I forged my way through the industry. I had to figure it out. Bodybuilding is not with a blueprint. That's why I talk about art so much, because an artist does it alone. A musician, they figure the shit out. And while there's a need for trainers, I just don't think there's a need for someone that's giving advice on what to take. As soon as somebody comes to me and says, what steroids should I take? Go talk to a doctor. So the guru gets mad because I say go talk to a doctor, because the doctor is the only one that's going to be able to give you whatever it is you're asking about. Whether a doctor talks to you about it or not, that's up to the doctor. I have a moral obligation not to tell you something that you might go and take or use or abuse, and then on your deathbed, you're saying, Sean Ray told me he did DECA, and, that's my drug of choice, and that's why I'm losing my kidney. It's never going to happen in my world.
I think that's part of the problem is, like, a lot of these pharmaceuticals that these underground labs and these things that are being manufactured, there is no medical purpose. So people are reading something on some fucking stupid forum. They're getting bad advice. There is no one to really go get this information, and they're trusting their trainer. They're not doing enough research themselves. And it's the whole focus, like I said already, the focus is just shifted to the drugs, to these diuretic protocols that are damaging. They're creating so many health concerns with these competitors, and it's really sad. And it's just not what it used to be. And if for anyone that's watching this, I really want people to use their heads. When they're hiring these trainers and they're getting these protocols, this could really ruin your life and your body. It's already happening, right?
No, it's happening, and I'm getting a little bit of flack because there's some good trainers and guys out there that are advisors, coaches, that feel that they're being lumped in with that conversation. And I'm saying that if you're a good coach, what I'm saying is just noise to you, because you don't do that anyways. If you're not prescribing steroids and anabolics and diuretics and growth hormone and insulin, then this conversation isn't about you as a coach. If you're giving out that kind of advice because you think it's your moral obligation to your client, then there's a problem, because you're not qualified. Sorry. You there?
Oh, yeah.
Yep, there you are. There you are.
My wife was calling. You're not qualified to give this kind of advice. So if you give that advice and something happens on your watch, we're coming for you. I'm going to be part of that. We're coming for you. You're going to need to be dealt with. So I advise all those trainers/gurus that are giving advice on steroids, diuretics, and all that other crap. If something happens to your client, we're coming for you. I'll be part of that train.
Good. They need to be held accountable. And I think anybody that gives any sort of dangerous advice should be held accountable.
And if your trainer has you doing aldactone for fucking 30 days straight, drop them. That's fucking bullshit. Taking DNP, cleanse, Cytomel, females pre-competition. This is insane. It's insane.
Well, there's a lot of bodybuilders that are doing the drug advice that their trainers give them, and then they're out there doing Nubane. Then they're out there doing growth hormone or GHB. They're out there doing Oxycontin. They're doing cocaine. I mean, not all of them, but we don't know what people are doing outside of what you're advising.
We know Craig was.
Yeah, a lot
We
of
know
them.
Craig was.
And
A
look
lot
what
of people
he
were
is
back
now,
in that
right?
time. It's still, I'm not going to lie, Sean, I tried New Bane too, but it's a bad path, man. A lot of these things are definitely some things that people should never get involved with.
My wife is giving me a 911. Listen, I gotta run because my wife's calling. I really appreciate you guys taking the time to pick my brain. You know how
Thanks,
I
Sean.
feel. You know exactly where I'm coming from. I don't think
Yep.
all trainers are bad. I think all trainers need to be aware that when it comes to that type of advice, watch your messaging. Your messaging
Absolutely.
is what's going to wind up putting you in jail if there's a casualty coming up.
Well, thanks
Right
for
on.
coming on the show,
Thanks for
Sean.
coming on the
Really
show, Sean.
it.
Appreciate it.
All right.
Have a great day, buddy.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Okay.